No one knows where the zombies came from. All we remember is a sunny afternoon. The teacher was on the rooftop with students, tending the vegetable garden, when terrifying screams erupted downstairs. Everyone, confused, went to look and saw students frantically running for their lives. Some students suddenly went berserk, attacking others, plunging the school into chaos instantly. Xiaomei, still in shock, was processing what was happening when a girl fell from above. In the next second, she turned into a zombie. Terrified, Xiaomei collapsed. Her considerate senior hurried over, grabbed her, and urged her to run. But on the way, they ran into another bitten classmate. Seeing the classmate's eyes had turned white, Xiaomei stood dazed. At the critical moment, the senior shielded her from a fatal bite. She was a troublemaker. He helped the infected senior to the rooftop, only to find infected people there too. Several students, terrified, ran downstairs, not realizing it was even more dangerous below. The teacher tried to stop everyone, but it was already too late. Seeing zombies about to pounce, the teacher shut the door and blocked it tightly with a refrigerator, but one was still on the rooftop. Sadako was almost bitten, but the brave teacher acted in time and sent the zombie flying. However, the danger was not over. The Briton senior was starting to mutate, gradually losing consciousness and slowly approaching Xiaomei. Xiaomei picked up the Luoyang shovel from the ground and struck without hesitation. By this time, the entire school and even the whole island had fallen, leaving only one teacher and 3 students who survived. They wrote a huge SOS on the rooftop, hoping the rescue team would spot them. Fortunately, there were a few vegetable gardens on the rooftop, which temporarily solved their food problem. But since there were only vegetables, they would eventually suffer from malnutrition if this continued too long. To have a balanced diet, Xiaomei and Sadako decided to go to the cafeteria for staple foods and meat. The two carefully made their way to the first floor and saw several zombies wandering the lobby. Sadako took out a basketball she had prepared, and the two worked together, each throwing a ball at a different group of zombies. Seeing that the zombies were distracted, they quickly crossed the lobby. As long as they made it through this corridor, they would reach the cafeteria. But right at the corner, there was a zombie about to turn around, so the two of them quickly crouched down. The zombie who suffered from cataracts and had poor eyesight didn't notice them. Just as they let their guard down, Sadako suddenly looked terrified. Another zombie appeared, and in the next second, it lunged at Xiaomei. He used the Luoyang shovel to block the attack, but the noise attracted the zombies that had just been lured away. Sadako kept swinging the bat, but with no strength. It was like she was just giving the zombies a massage. She couldn't do any damage. All she could do was collapse and shout in despair. Just as Xiaomei finished off one zombie, another lunged. Seeing it about to grab Sadako's long legs, Xiaomei pushed away the zombie in front of her with all her might. After taking it down, she swung the Luoyang shovel and successfully rescued Sadako. Afterwards, the two went to the cafeteria, only to find it in ruins. Still, they found a handful of noodles. At that moment, Xiaomei suddenly heard a noise. She cautiously approached with her Luoyang shovel, but as soon as she opened the door, something inside knocked her down. Xiaomei quickly rolled over and pinned it, only to realize it was actually a surviving student. For safety, the group thoroughly checked her for wounds, and only then felt relieved. It turned out she was a junior in high school. After the virus outbreak, she had been hiding in the cafeteria until they found her. To welcome the new junior, they ate spaghetti they risked their lives for, but everyone else was happy. The junior looked worried, as food would eventually run out, and she didn't want to sit and wait for death. Early next morning, for unknown reasons, the school's broadcast system suddenly came on. The zombies were all drawn in by this familiar melody. The second set of National Radio Calisthenics for middle school students, the ERA group, is now presented. The junior had deliberately gathered the zombies in order to leave the school. Hearing the music, Xiaomei and Sadako immediately went to the broadcast room to turn it off. Juzi also found the junior about to leave, but his persuasion was in vain. Although the junior had hold of a car key, she couldn't find the car. With zombies closing in, the two had no choice but to climb onto a van, and instantly, they were completely surrounded. This scene reminded the junior of when the virus first broke out, watching helplessly as classmates were dragged away by zombies. By the time she snapped out of it, Xiaomei was making noise nearby, trying to lure the zombies away, but it didn't work. Seeing that they were in a desperate situation, Sadako returned to the broadcast room once again and picked out a song she liked. It's from Yunnan, specifically Nujiang in Yunnan, and more precisely, Longshui City within Nujiang, and finally, Liuku in Longshui City. Zombies drawn away, stepson pulled junior to jump off vehicle. 3 horde, safe zone, narrowly escaped disaster. Yuji, there's barely any food left. They have to take a risk and try their luck at the school's storage room. The two strongest high school students teamed up and charged into the corridor filled with zombies. Although it was their first time working together, their coordination was flawless and they quickly took care of all the zombies. Their efforts were not in vain. The storage room was packed with all kinds of supplies, food and drinks of every kind, enough to last them for years. But as everyone happily moved goods, a zombie suddenly appeared. Xiaomei grabbed her Luoyang shovel, ready to strike, but realized it was the senior who hadn't fully turned. Fond memories flashed through her mind, and since she had feelings for him, Xiaomei hesitated. However, the senior, now a zombie, didn't hesitate. He lunged, knocking her down, about to bite. At the critical moment, Sadako stepped in, wielding a fire extinguisher, attacking furiously, hitting 77 times. With plenty of supplies, their lives gradually got back on track. They grew vegetables together on the rooftop, had pillow fight, and watched the stars at night. Even I feel tempted to join them. But happy times are always so short-lived. Just as they were having a party, the fire alarm suddenly went off for some unknown reason, its piercing sound echoing throughout the entire campus. The zombies began to stir, gathering toward the school building. When everyone reached the first floor, they discovered a sneaky zombie playing with fire, setting itself ablaze. Everyone was speechless, stunned. Zombies broke through barriers and surged in. In the chaos, the group split. As a zombie lunged, Xiaomei blocked it with her Luoyang shovel, shouting for the two behind her to hurry. Meanwhile, Sadako went to the second floor, finding it crawling with zombies. Just as the junior finished off one, they accidentally fell. Zombies closed in from behind, and more burst through the door ahead. Shrill cries of zombies echoed campus, with rotting hands reaching from windows. They had ravenous. The two quickly got up and ran. They dashed through the zombie horde and hid in an activity room, barricading the door with tables and chairs. But the zombies soon broke their defenses. The two were in imminent danger. The powerless stepson collapsed, screaming, while only Xiaomei escaped to the rooftop. He tried to hold off the zombies, but there were too many. Even the strongest, Xiaomei, was forced onto the highest point, barely a square meter, completely trapped. Just as he was about to give up, he suddenly thought of an idea. She remembered what the senior she deeply admired once told her. The profound power of love is truly formidable. Once again, Xiaomei bravely stood up. She leapt forward with incredible speed, grabbed a sturdy Luoyang shovel from the ground, and fought her way through, slaying any gods or Buddhas that stood resolutely in her path, from the rooftop all the way to the activity room, without even blinking an eye. At that very moment, Sadako and the junior were still desperately fending off the relentless zombies. Fortunately, Xiaomei arrived just in the nick of time and managed to save them both. But there was still no sign of the stepson and the teacher. The long corridors were littered with charred corpses, and the air was thick with the pungent smell of roasted meat. They made their way through the corridor and finally found the two of them in the infirmary, but tragedy still struck. The teacher had turned into a zombie. It turned out that even before the fire broke out, the teacher had been bitten on the arm by a zombie while trying to protect the students. Knowing he would soon turn, he pushed the students out of the infirmary and stayed behind alone. Even after becoming a zombie, he still hadn't forgotten to protect the students. He tied himself up with a rope. Everyone was overwhelmed with grief. With tears in her eyes, Xiaomei once again raised the Luoyang shovel and gave the teacher his final farewell. At the end of the film, all the zombies are wiped out. The four survivors bow deeply to the school, then drive away in their wuling Hongguang, heading off to find a new safe zone.